Hi, Jonathan Hetterly here with Psych Cinema, and today we're going to be exploring the psychology behind the great debate, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Psych Cinema is Shrink Tank's video series where I explore the psychological themes found in the films that I watch and love. But before we get started with Die Hard, do me a favor, subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell. That way you won't miss any time we drop new content that explores the intersection of psychology and pop culture. Now today I want to discuss this conversation and debate of whether or not Die Hard qualifies as a Christmas or holiday film. Let's first start with the argument against it. Now last year the Hollywood Reporter sent out a survey and 62% of American adults don't believe that Die Hard qualifies as a holiday film. In fact, only 25% of those surveyed believe that it qualifies as a Christmas film. Also, Rotten Tomatoes wrote a lengthy opinion piece where they disqualified Die Hard as a holiday film, primarily in the fact that they view that the Christmas setting doesn't greatly influence or impact the plot. And then finally, Bruce Willis himself, Mr. John McClane, at the end of his Comedy Central roast, declared to the entire world that Die Hard is not a Christmas film.
Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
But now let's look at the argument that has been made for people trying to support Die Hard as a Christmas film. First and foremost, last year, the screenwriter Stephen E. D'Souza came out that he believes that it's a holiday film, that it takes place during Christmas Eve, that all of the Christmas imagery is throughout the entire film. So even though Bruce Willis doesn't think so, the chief screenwriter does. And then recently, Cassette Boy edited a film where he mashed up the 12 Days of Christmas with Die Hard.
Cute toy.
And that can be found on YouTube, which a lot of people now are saying is the final argument for Die Hard being a Christmas film. But let's actually talk a little bit about the argument for or against and why people are discussing this, especially since most of the evidence points towards the American public not believing that it is a Christmas film. Why are there so many people hell-bent on declaring that Die Hard is a Christmas film? Well, we can look at a couple of possibilities or theories. Number one, it's the contrarian viewpoint. When you think about Christmas films, there's a number of things that oftentimes comes up. Inspirational, family-oriented, a positive message, or a happy ending. When you think about Die Hard, that really is more of a contrarian kind of film to argue that it's a holiday-themed film. So why do people sometimes go against the grain? Well, for some people it's just simply attention-seeking. And we know that the onset of internet trolls really promotes people just trolling others and being able to have a platform and a voice for their contrarian views and just to get attention from other people. But I think the other thing we want to sort of explore for people that believe that Die Hard is a holiday film is that it really goes against the grain. So it's shaking up the status quo, and in some ways that's how we differentiate from the social norms and we express our individualism. That even though collectively the demographics and the majority may think that Die Hard is not a holiday film, that there is room for us to express our unique, creative, individualistic outlet by declaring that if we believe it is so. Now, personally, how does one really articulate whether or not something merits to be qualified as a Christmas film or not? Now, when you look at the argument made both for and against Die Hard, there's really only one fact that's indisputable. That fact is, does Die Hard take place in a Christmas time setting? The indisputable answer is yes. The movie takes place on Christmas Eve. Now, after that, every other argument, either for or against Die Hard being labeled a Christmas film, is entirely subjective and up to the individual expressing their opinion, what their confirmation bias is, or what they prioritize. Because of that, I'm not so much interested in whether or not Die Hard is or is not a holiday film, because both sides can just spin their points to make their case. But rather, I'm interested in, what type of holiday films there are and what type of Christmas film Die Hard is. Because when you think about holiday films, there tends to be a whole gamut of type of films, both tone and thematically. Most people, when they think about Christmas or holiday films, they think family-oriented and friendly of that nature. For a number of people, it will have significant religious undertones of the Christmas story of the birth of Jesus. Other times it will be very sentimental, very inspirational. There's a very overt, not subliminal, not subtle, a very overt and direct message or moral lesson at the end of the film. It usually is family friendly in that regard, and oftentimes it's something that people latch onto, that they make it a tradition of watching that film right around the holiday time. And that a lot of times is what people view as Die Hard's biggest argument against it being a holiday film, being an action film that oftentimes people seem to watch it throughout the year. Now, because there really isn't a rubric to definitively say Die Hard is or is not a holiday film, I want to make the argument that it is a certain type of Christmas film. So it is not necessarily a inspirational or sentimental, draped in nostalgia and happy family-oriented themes. I would argue that Die Hard is a subversive Christmas film. Think about it. If you think about some of the most prominent holiday films, whether it's Miracle on 34th Street, White Christmas, or even Elf, they're very family friendly. Even the humor tends to be very kid friendly. It's oftentimes a lot of punchlines, it's safe, and it's actually dripping with holiday decorations and themes and imagery and music. Die Hard is very subversive in that it really goes against a lot of those accepted holiday tropes. Even though it takes place on Christmas, that's not the central theme of the film. No one is arguing that Die Hard is a family-friendly film. It's action-oriented. There is immense amounts of profanity and violence. People not only die, people kill other people. There is even a brief scene where there is sexual content in one of the offices of the Nakatomi building, Nakatomi Towers. And so nobody's arguing that Die Hard is a family-friendly film, but why does everything around the holidays have to be family-friendly? You could argue that, again, some either contrarian or subversive folks don't view the holidays or Christmas as a particularly family-friendly or happy time in their life. Why should they be robbed of having their own type of Christmas film? If you think of a number of holiday movies like Krampus or Bad Santa, they don't tend to be overtly happy or family friendly, but that doesn't necessarily make them any less holiday themed. And then finally, when you think about the terrorists in Die Hard, we originally think that they have these noble, even if misguided intentions to free radicals around the world. In the end, they're just common thieves. So even Die Hard with its villains is sending a very subliminal anti-capitalist or consumerist message. When you think about all the other holiday films, that's all about getting the best presents and the Christmas morning delight and the consumerism and the capitalism message beneath that. Die Hard tends to be very subversive in that regard. So why can't there be such a thing as a subversive holiday film, a Christmas film? It's because we tend to push an agenda that the holidays have to be happy. They have to be sentimental, that people should feel joy and warmth and happiness. And even though Die Hard at the end tends to have a positive ending, the good guys win and prevail, the villains are killed and they fail, and our protagonists are safe. Die Hard really is about terror and loss and threat and violence and the ugliness of the world. And for a lot of people, a few days in December doesn't stop that reality in their own lives. So for some people that like sentimentality for escapism, for others, they like their holiday films to be a representation of their own real life. And for that, I think Die Hard is indisputably a holiday film, not for everyone, but a subversive one for people that definitely don't like everyone go around the Christmas table and say what they're grateful for and that it's been the best years of their lives. Now, because I don't believe that there is a definitive is Die Hard a Christmas movie or not, this is your chance to respond to me and give me your argument. Why do you think it is or is not a Christmas film? How do you define what qualifies as a holiday film or not? I really want to hear your responses because a poll generally just gives us a very black and white yes or no, but I want to hear your arguments for or against. So be sure to leave your comments on this video. Also, be sure to leave me any recommendations of films or television that you would like for me to tackle. Or even today, I'm opening up the great cinematic debate. Is there something that you would like me to wrestle with, a particular stance on film or the legacy of a film or filmmaker in our past? Because here at Psych Cinema, we want to open it up to explore all of the psychological ramifications of film and cinema. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and check out shrinktank.com, where you can find other articles, videos, quizzes, and more, where we explore the intersection of pop culture and psychology. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of Psych Cinema. I'm Jonathan Hetterly. I'll see you at the movie soon, and have a happy holidays and a happy new year.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother.
Ho, ho, ho!